everything is being led by former members of the Obama administration.
So she has started this countdown, this 10-day countdown to arresting Merrick Garland. And fuck yeah, I keep going, Luna. You're great. I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjakovich. And we are unapologetically outspoken. Hello, everybody, and happy Monday. Hey, Stephanie, before we dive into today's podcast, I have to tell you and our listeners about this very interesting and bizarre interaction that I had on Friday at a nursing home. So I've been volunteering with a senior community, like helping them learn English. And this particular nursing home, like the woman who heads up the program that I'm working for, she had to set everything up beforehand. And so I come in the afternoon and we do the class. And then afterwards, I'm walking down the hall and like nobody knows that I am American except for the people in the program. And this younger, like, I don't know what you'd call him, a guy that works there, whatever. He's pushing some guy in a wheelchair. And I say hello and check, and he says hi back in English. And I was a little surprised. And then he stops and he turns and he looks at me and he says, "I have a bold question." And I said, "Okay, what's your question?" He's like, "Trump or Biden?" And I was totally taken aback because people in America, they don't do that. They don't just like hit you up with politics. And I just immediately said Trump. And he looked at me and he said, "Okay, 2020, Trump or Biden?" And I said, "Trump." And he goes, I said, "What about you?" He goes, "Well, we don't really care about your politics, but in 2020, I would have said Biden." And he's like, "Now I've kind of changed my mind." And I was like, interesting, because I notice a lot of people here in Europe are very pro-Biden because it's all part of that EU global agenda. And it was very just interesting to have that interaction, first of all, just like immediate first interaction with someone saying Trump or Biden, and then actually coming to the idea of, yeah, maybe Biden's not so great.
Yeah. It's so interesting, like seeing people kind of like wake up and shift their perspective. And I feel like I've seen a lot of that in the last month, like online and like in person. I feel like people are just like, yeah, things have gotten so bad, like whatever, we have no other choice. Like even if they hate Trump, it's like, yeah, we can't vote for Biden though. So I mean, that's a good sign, but interesting. What if we just like walked up to people? It's like when you see them, those like news interviewers going up to people on the street, and then they'll say Biden and they'll be like, "Oh, why do you support him?" And like, "Why do you not like Trump?" And then they have like no real answer.
Yeah. I just thought it was so bizarre because like nobody speaks to me in English here, except the people I know. And he just came out with it. And then I found out later he had overheard the woman who runs the program talking that she was bringing me in to introduce me to the staff. So I was like, okay, it makes sense that he knew I was American, but still, I thought it was very interesting. But anyway, speaking of Trump and Biden, like we have not talked much about the Trump trials lately. And I'll be honest, like it's on every podcast. It's on every news feed. It's like Trump trials, Trump trials, Trump trials. And I'm just so fucking sick of all the nitpicky shit that they're focused on. And it makes my blood boil and I get all riled up. And like I was in the car with my husband the other day and we were listening to, I think, Megyn Kelly. And all I could do is like, I shouted out, I'm like, why isn't Hillary in prison? Why aren't Biden and Obama in prison? It's just like the whole thing pisses me off. So I've just been avoiding talking about it. But in case you guys did not see what happened Thursday, I have to bring this up because it was fucking hilarious. And I just need to give a shout out to Scott Lobadillo. I hope I said that right. But anyway, he's a Staten Island artist and a pro-Trump activist. And he, on Thursday, released 100 pink penis-shaped balloons outside of the Manhattan courthouse where the Trump trials are being held. And the balloons all had the faces of like DA Bragg and special counsel Jack Smith, Judge Merchant, and Judge Engeron on these different balloons. And I don't know if you saw the video, Stephanie, but it was awesome. And this guy referred to his penis balloons as an art installation called the Dicks of Hazard. And he said he used that term to show that these guys who are all in some way trying to take down Trump are, quote, a bunch of useless dicks, end quote. And I just thought it was so creative and fun. So, cheers to Scott Lebedo.
Good job, Scott. Like, what a good way to start out the week. I think that made my whole week. And I haven't seen the videos, so I gotta go. Maybe they're like censoring it because it's like whatever. But yeah, they are a bunch of useless sticks. So yeah, good for you, Scott. I like it. I'm surprised they didn't like throw him in jail though, because that's something
I
the
know.
the left would do. Oh my God. Well, yeah, I mean, the cases against Trump are totally falling apart. And it's actually kind of fun to see that happen because it's like exposing how deeply corrupt and biased our justice system is. And like everyone is seeing it. The left too, like the mainstream media, And so this week, it was the hush money case falling apart. So keep in mind with this case, the only thing, the one piece of supposed evidence that connects Trump to Stormy Daniels' supposed hush money payment is Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, who is like a known liar. I mean, he's perjured himself in other cases. And this is like their star witness. This is like the gotcha, right? So, like, first they put Stormy Daniels on the stand, and like, what a fucking joke. I mean, this woman has changed her story. Like, every time she talks about it, like, major facts change all of a sudden, And like, on the stand, she admits that she doesn't even know why Trump's being charged with a crime, but that she hopes he goes to jail. Like, I mean, you can't make it up. Like, so bad. And so, like, after that testimony crashed and burned, they put Michael Cohen on the stand, who, again, like, he's supposed to be the star witness. And oh my God, the entire case crumbled because, surprise, surprise, the guy was caught lying again. So, and like multiple times, like, this is so bad. So, the first lie was that Cohen like testified in the past that he didn't want a pardon from Trump, but then admitting that he did ask for a pardon through Michael Costello. And Costello is the guy who sat in front of Congress, like at the same time that this was going on last week. And he was saying that Cohen told him that he had absolutely nothing on Trump to give to prosecutors. Like, and he emphasized, like he said it dozens of times, I have nothing. And so then Cohen was asked on the stand if he wanted a job in the Trump White House, to which Cohen replied, no. Then Blanche, the guy who's cross-examining him, he he provides like text message receipts between Cohen and his daughter, where Cohen was disappointed for not getting a White House position. And there was previous testimony from a witness saying that Cohen wanted a job in the White House. And like, I guess he wanted to be like attorney general, which good luck, pal. Like, what a joke. So, like, just left and right, they're showcasing that everything this guy says is a lie. Like everything, even stupid things like him saying, he didn't want a job when clearly he did. So the guy's just like constantly spitting out lies. And the whole thing is like in the court of law, if a witness lies once about anything, you can disregard everything they say because they're like a liar, right?
In a real court of law,
In a
but
real court of law.
not in these sham
Yeah.
trials.
Yeah. Um, so okay. The key fuck up though, like here's where it's just like hilarious. So Cohen's key fuck up was saying that he called Trump's Secret Service on a specific night, like a specific date, to let Trump know that Stormy Daniels had been paid. Okay. And that's like the key piece of evidence, the only piece of evidence that ties Trump to this hush money payment. And so the defense then tells Cohen that Schiller, who's Trump's Secret Service, had told them, yeah, Cohen did call me that night, but he called me about a kid, a 14-year-old, prank calling him. And he asked if like the Secret Service could help him deal with that. And so that's what the phone call was about. And so they bring that up to Cohen on the stand, and like he just falls apart. Like noticeably, he fumbles and he's like, well, the phone call was about both. It was about the kid harassing him, but it was also about like the hush money payment. So that completely contradicts like everything because this kid harassing him that night was never mentioned by Cohen previously. And so like commentators were calling this like a Perry Mason moment where like the whole case falls apart and like everyone, is gasping like, oh my God, he's a liar. Because like literally everything the guy said was a lie, including the key phone call that was like the one string of evidence that they supposedly had. So anyhow, Donald Trump Jr. posted a series of quotes on social media from like the Trump hating media even agreeing that the case was over. And I actually found a clip of like all the mainstream media people admitting that this was like the whole thing was a sham. So I'm just going to play the clip instead. So listen to this.
Cornered in what appeared to be a lie. I don't think I've ever seen a star cooperating witness get his knees chopped out quite as clearly and dramatically as what just happened with Michael Cohen. This does seem pretty bad. This does seem. I feel like there are a lot of questions that have been raised. I think if I was a juror in this case, watching that, I would think this guy's making this up as he's going along.
Okay, so I don't know how well you could hear that, but it's just like funny because they're like, I mean, it does seem pretty bad. Yeah, it seems like they, you know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna say? This was awful. It was horrible. And I think that Stormy Daniels' former attorney, the guy that represented her against Trump, Michael Avenatti, I think he said it best. So he posts, quote, Cohen's testimony is a light plane crash with no survivors. When Blanche is done with him, Cohen's dental records will not be sufficient to identify him. What a disaster for DA Bragg, the prosecution, and all of those on the left who thought Cohen was the savior. Like, well said. It was absolutely a fucking plane crash. And that's just this one case. It's like last week we talked about how the judge showed that the DOJ tampered with the classified documents after the raid with that case. Then before that, we talked about the Fannie Willis scandal, where she hired her lover and was like using taxpayer dollars to go on lavish vacations, all for this like Trump trial. I mean, it's just, you can't make this shit up. It's so bad. And I mean, it's completely corrupt. And this is like third world dictator type stuff. I mean, it's at that level. And again, I love it. I love it because it's helping Trump gain more support ahead of the election and it's waking people up. People are realizing like what's going on. So that I think is good news. But speaking of dictators, Biden is now using his executive powers to hide the audio and video recordings of him with investigator Hur. So, like, we did that episode, and just to remind everybody, Hur was the special counsel that investigated Biden's classified document scandal and found that, like, yes, he did have them illegally. And I mean, they were in his garage, they were in Chinatown, they were in like 8 different places. Obviously, that was wrong. It was against the law, but no criminal prosecution was warranted because he was, this elderly, confused man with limited memory or whatever, the report said. So anyhow, the Heritage Foundation's Oversight Project and Judicial Watch submitted FOIA requests. So that's the Freedom of Information Act requests, asking the government to turn over the tapes from the Hur investigation. They wanted to see the actual audio and video recordings. And the Department of Justice refused. So yeah, no surprise there. But like they refused to abide by a subpoena from House Republicans.
Yeah.
And yeah.
How do you refuse?
Right. And so Washington, D.C.'s U.S. District Court ruled this week that there would be an expedited briefing scheduled to litigate the release of the tapes. And now Biden is stating executive privilege over the tapes. So, like on Thursday, the White House counsel in a letter said that Republicans are using the tapes to play politics and they just want to use them in campaign ads. Kind of sounds like they're doing that same thing to Trump with all of these sham trials against him and like literally making up crimes that have never been used in a court of law before. But anyhow, your favorite person, KJP, was asked about this by the media, and they're like, why don't you just release the tapes if there's nothing to hide? Because this makes it seem like there's something to hide. And she
Wait, wait,
says,
wait.
well,
Before you say it, I have not heard this, but please tell me she said it's an ongoing investigation.
she probably threw that in there. I don't have the full clip. She actually gave an answer this time, though, like
Wow.
somewhat. I know, but like it's a stupid answer. No surprise there. She says, well, the transcripts are already available. And the attorney general made it clear that law enforcement files like these need to be protected. Yeah, that's what the whole fucking thing is about. He wasn't
Right.
protecting classified information, like dumbass. So, like, yeah, that only applies when it's Donald Trump, right?
Yeah.
So, anyhow, like Jim Jordan said, well, we need the tapes to make sure the transcripts are accurate because this White House has a record of altering transcripts. And they asked investigator Hur to change them. He said that in testimony. So it's like, yeah, we need to make sure everything's matching up. So, of course, like once again, it's highlighting the hypocrisy and the weaponization of the Justice Department because you know damn well that if these tapes were about Trump, they would be playing on repeat by every single media outlet. But
Yep.
again, this does nothing but help Trump, I believe, because American people are dumb. Like we see the hypocrisy, we see what's happening. We know Biden has dementia. Like it's very obvious. And that's a legitimate concern when he's running our country. And so I say let the circus continue because it makes Biden look crooked and it's making Trump out to be a martyr, you know? And I think that's the positive spin is like the more they go after him, the better it is for Trump. But I found a clip this morning. It's of Representative Luna of Florida, who she is such a freaking badass. Like she is by far my favorite now. And she is hell bent on not letting the DOJ get away with this. So listen to this clip from their committee on May 17th.
I wanted to offer this amendment because I, like so many Americans, have frankly lost faith in the justice system. And there was some comments made earlier by my colleague, Mr. Goldman, who I actually very much so enjoyed debating with on this committee. But he said that oversight did not have authority in regards to contempt proceedings. And during my time off for maternity, after I was told that I could not vote, I actually spent that time reading the House Rule Book and Manual. And there's something that hasn't been used since the early 1900s called inherent contempt of Congress. It's actually something that any one individual member reserves as a right and authority in the House of Representatives. And the reason why we're here today is because the Attorney General thought he was above the law and did not comply, not just with one subpoena, but with two subpoenas. Those are subpoenas from both Chairman Jordan and Chairman Comer. I want to read this to you because ultimately, if in 10 days the Department of Justice does not do their job and hold the Attorney General responsible, just like they would any other American, I think that it should be our job in the House of Representatives to bring an inherent contempt proceeding against the Attorney General, of which I've already filed that privilege motion over a week ago.
So she's saying, like, yeah, you can't just defy a subpoena and think you're like the almighty powerful Merrick Garland. And so obviously the DOJ is not going to hold him in contempt and do anything. So she's like, well, while I was on maternity leave, I just happened to read the entire rule book. And yeah, we can, and I'm doing it. So she has started this countdown, this 10-day countdown to arresting Merrick Garland. And fuck yeah, I keep going, Luna. You're great.
I'm curious to see where this goes. And like you just reminded me, I did not even bring this up for the podcast, but did you see a few days ago there was just speaking of Congress, the total shit show that went down between AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Yes. Yeah, that was the same hearing. And so everyone's like missing what Luna said because they like were like brawling. And then AOC's like, whatever, baby girl. And Marjorie Taylor Greene's like, baby girl, I don't think so. And like, it was hilarious. They were just like over the top.
This is Congress. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, but that's like a really sad statement.
I
And
know.
once again, just reaffirms my belief that the whole thing's a fucking clown show.
A theater
So,
performance. Yep.
yeah. But going back to the whole Biden thing with like exerting executive privilege with these recordings, like in my mind, that's basically all you need to know. Like they obviously want to hide the truth. It's an obvious pattern. It's been playing out over and over again. And like, how can anyone deny it at this point? And let's be real, like we know he's not the one running the country anyway. It's fucking Obama and the global elites or whoever you want to say is behind it. But Biden is just like the geriatric senile puppet on the world stage. And I still don't fully understand the play behind like why they're allowing him to remain in the presidency is like this total display of weakness and senility to the rest of the world when they've had so many opportunities to conveniently remove him. But all I can think is it has to be part of the plan, right? So I want to bring on this article I read in the Daily Caller on Friday because Stephanie, this is going to blow your fucking mind because it shows just how deep the corruption is and how all roads lead back to Obama. So, we've had these anti-Israel protests going on for months now at college campuses around the nation, and we've talked about how they're primarily being funded by George Soros. But there was a recent report by Tablet Magazine and a bunch of public statements from former White House officials have revealed that like everything is being led by former members of the Obama administration. And it's obviously creating a conflict for Biden and like undermining his support for Israel, but it's all being done by design behind the scenes. So apparently there's several organizations that are financially backing the protests. The Westpac Foundation, Rockefeller Brothers Fund, an anti-Israel group called WOL or Within Our Lifetime, and AROC, the Arab Resource and Organizing Center. Well, these groups have all received significant funding donations from the Tides Foundation. So I hadn't heard of that before, but it's this very progressive, like dark funds group. And all of the board members somehow have ties to Obama. So who's on the board for the Tides Foundation? Well, there's Dylan Orr, who worked under Obama in the Department of Labor, Cheryl Alston, who was previously appointed to Obama's advisory committee of the Federal Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, former Secretary of the Tides Board, Suzanne Nossel, who was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Internal Organizations in Obama's State Department. There's Tim Wang, who's a managing partner at Wesley Group, which was founded by Steve Wesley, the former California co-chair of Obama for America. Board member Lori Chapman is president of the Capital Division of Enterprise Community Partners, which is run by Sean Donovan, who was Obama's Housing and Urban Development Secretary and director of Obama's Office of Management and Budget. And now we know that Obama's foreign policy was way more pro-Iran, and Biden has been more pro-Israel because of his long-standing relationship with Netanyahu. And in my mind, it's likely attributed to whatever dirt Netanyahu has on him. But it's obviously creating this huge rift in the Democratic Party. And, Biden recently has been facing all this backlash from protesters and members of Congress. And now, like with Israel and his recent move to block more weapons going to Israel, which I think is being overturned by Congress. But my point is like what's been going on in this whole conflict, Israel, Hamas, Palestine, Iran, it's created a divide between Biden and Obama. And as this war in Gaza progresses, more high-profile staffers from Obama's administration have been speaking out and criticizing Biden's pro-Israel stance. And we have foreign policy experts pointing out that many of these staffers of Biden's are former Obama staffers, and they're the ones that are holding Biden's feet to the fire when it comes to withholding aid to Israel. So Richard Goldberg, he's a senior advisor at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He told the Daily Caller, quote, "They're all Obama alumni, with Biden's senior officials having served as senior officials during Obama. Sullivan was on the secret trip to Oman to start the Iran nuclear deal talks. McGurk was a senior architect of Obama's Mideast realignment. Bill Burns was the key architect, along with Wendy Sherman, in connecting the interim nuclear deal with Iran. And Blinken was instrumental in securing the final nuclear deal," end quote. So I want to read this comment that was made by Gabriel Nerona. He's a former State Department official who's now the executive director at Polaris National Security, because I thought what he said was very interesting. So he said, quote, I think they're looking to reshape the Democrat Party long term. What they're ultimately doing is saying, we're willing to actually lose one election if in doing so, it sends a long term message to the Democrat Party that it's my way or the highway, and they want party discipline going forward. To show this, you have to take the anti Israel position, or we will cause you to lose in this election. I think something like the Soros types are more willing to play in this long term view of, quote, we want to reshape the party, and that this is Biden's last election. But there are many, many more to come in the Democrat Party, end quote. So, Stephanie, like, I thought this was a very interesting perspective. And, like, what do you think? Do you think this is the game plan?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. I mean, I already was thinking that Obama's pulling the strings,
Mhm.
but this just adds more evidence. Like his people are everywhere. And like, why does he still live in DC? Like that most presidents move on with their life, you know? But here's where, you know, conspiracy brain again, like I think it goes so much deeper than Obama. When you look at just everything that's happened pretty much in our lifetime with the presidency. So I think we may have touched on this briefly in a previous episode, but Obama is actually linked to the Bush family. And there's an article that I found from The Guardian from 2008. And it says, quote, researchers at the New England Historic Genealogy Society, founded in 1845, said that Obama, the son of a white woman from Kansas and a black man from Kenya, can call 6 U.S. presidents his cousins, both of the Bushes, Ford, Johnson, Truman, and James Madison, are his cousins. Okay. The Genealogical Society, a nonprofit organization, found that he is also related to Churchill. So, and then it says Obama and George W. Bush are 10th cousins once removed. Okay, so who cares? Well, let's just like look at the whole timeline, okay? Bush Sr. helped raise Obama, okay? And how did that happen? Well, Obama's stepdad was CIA and very involved in like the power players at the time, including the CIA director, George Bush Sr. And knowing what we know now about the CIA and knowing that, you know, the CIA director became president, it just, you know, it makes me look at things differently in history. Then his mentor, so Bush Sr.'s mentor, or he was, I guess, mentor to Bill Clinton, right? Then Bill Clinton became president. So this is where it's the uniparty. It's not Democrat or Republican. They're all friends. They're all part of this club. And so, you know, he gets Bill Clinton to become president, and then his cousin, who he helped raise, Obama, becomes president, you know, after his son, George W. And there's just so much behind the scenes with this family. And to know that Obama was tied to them and was cousins with them, I think just makes it so deep. And the fact that it's all tied to the CIA, right? Then what happens? Then Trump comes in and fucks it all up because he's not part of the club. So they get Biden, Obama's VP, who they know is compromised and they have a ton of dirt on him to be their pawn. Like it makes perfect sense. And I mean, I could go so deep into like the childhood of Obama and his ties with the Bush family, but it would take like all day. So I recommend everyone look into that because it is crazy how much is out there that nobody knows about. And you want to know what else is crazy? So, as I said in that article from the Genealogical Society, it said that Obama has ties to Winston Churchill. Like, that's part of his family tree, Winston Churchill. Okay. What's even crazier is every single president, except for Martin Van Buren, can be traced back to King John of England, who was portrayed as the villain in Robin Hood. Every single one of them but one, and that's according to the Daily Mail. That's fucking crazy. And I'm still unclear. I have been looking and looking because I want to know whether Trump is. But most of these articles came from before he was president. So it really didn't say much about Trump. But like, yeah, that includes Obama. Like they all go back to the same freaking ancestor who was king of England. I mean, that's weird, right? So anyhow, it just makes like my conspiracy brain think that the idea of some elite cabal running things behind the scenes is very likely. And according to everything that you found, Tara, like I would say that Obama is the modern day key architect of the whole thing. That's my
Yeah,
take.
and let's take it one step further, okay? Because now we're going to throw England into the mix. So, have you heard these theories that are going around social media about King Charles's new portrait that was unveiled on Tuesday?
Yep. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess this is his first official portrait as king since his coronation last May. And in the portrait, he's wearing the uniform of the Welsh Guards. There's a butterfly near his shoulder, and the entire background is like fucking bright red, like dark bright red. And this portrait is fucking huge. It's like 9 or 10 feet tall. And so the theory going around is it's like a total Satanist depiction. And I was reading in the Daily Dot, and it had a bunch of comments from users on X, and one wrote, quote, "They aren't even trying to hide it anymore," end quote. Another said, quote, "The color red is associated with Satan. The monarch butterfly symbolizes mind control, and black eyes in a dream symbolizes a demonic entity. When they tell you who they are, believe them," end quote. And then another social media post said the portrait depicts, I know you can pronounce this better than me, Bom, Baphomet?
Baphomet.
Baphomet. Okay, Baphomet, the devil goat image that's associated with Satan. And one user even posted a mirrored image that was like darkened in parts and showed the outline of Baphomet surrounding King Charles's face, and it fits perfectly and it's totally fucking creepy. So then another user writes, quote, "King Charles, Satanists, pedophiles, extinctionists. This is what describes the people who wield the most power in the modern world. They used to hide it, but now they don't. They flaunt their love for Satan through symbolism. Those who see it are branded conspiracy theorists because the masses do not yet believe that our governments are in lockstep with each other and are controlled by globalist organizations like the UN, the WEF, and the WHO. Our world is ruled by people who believe that Earth is overpopulated and want to wipe out most of humanity. There is only one reason why not a single person that paid to rape, molest, and murder children on Epstein Island is in jail. They are the ones at the top," end quote. Just like we say all the time, right, Stephanie? So this is all like stuff on X, but I know you have to have seen some good shit on TikTok.
Oh my gosh, it's everywhere. And everyone should go look at it because like the second I saw that painting before it like became, where everyone was like playing with the image, immediately I noticed the butterfly. I'm like, this is such a dark and it gives you that creepy like chills down your spine. I mean, it is clearly a dark and like satanic portrait. And this is like his official portrait as king, by the way. And then you see this like butterfly, and it's like, what is this beautiful butterfly doing on his shoulder? And I immediately saw that and I'm like, holy shit, because people that if you just go and start researching the code name like monarch butterfly, this was a program in MK Ultra, the MK Ultra mind control program where they did horrific things to children. And it's like, why? There's nothing else in the painting, but you have this butterfly. Like, it has to be there for a reason. And like, everyone that's in the conspiracy world knows what the monarch butterfly stands for. So, like, I don't know. I just thought that was weird. And then, like you said, the mirrored image clearly shows Baphomet, like, clearly. And Baphomet, by the way, like, all these celebrities that we were talking about, like, they become popular and then they have these, like, satanic things. That's what they're showing. Like in the Taylor Swift video, there's like Baphomet is in there and like they all like worship this thing. It's so freaking creepy. So anyhow, to tie in the royal family. Okay, first of all, I don't know if you remember during his coronation ceremony, like there's a video of the whole entire crowd gasping, like they saw something horrific, and still to this day it's never been explained. Nobody can say what they saw. Second of all, what was caught on video during his coronation was that guy that looked like the Grim Reaper in all black robe covering his head. And then they were like, oh, he's just like works at the church and like cleans or something. They had some like bullshit excuse. And we're like, what? So there's that, right? Well, there is a video. I've seen it. You can go find it. There's video of Queen Elizabeth's coronation ceremony with the Druids. And it is so fucking creepy. They're outside and it looks like they're performing a ritual where everyone is in these like creepy cloaks standing around her. And it doesn't make sense, right? Because the royals are supposed to be Catholic. They're very tied to the Catholic Church. So why was she partaking in this like pagan ritual? It's just weird. And no one, again, has ever really answered that, or at least I haven't seen a good answer. So I think there's like some weird shit happening with the royal family. And then there's like this whole other thing going on with them, which I don't even know if you've heard about it because it's not so big here as it is in the UK. But did you hear like the whole gossip about Princess Kate like missing?
I've seen a little bit of it, yeah.
Okay, so the public has not seen her since Christmas. She's not made a public appearance. And when people started asking about it, they released a photo of her with her children, and it was clearly AI. And they ended up, the royal family admitted that it was AI. And they like, made up some bullshit excuse for why they released this like fake photo. So then people were like, oh my God, like something must have happened to her. And like, where is she? And so after being harassed like left and right by the media and the public, she ends up releasing a video of her explaining that she has cancer and she's in treatment. So then like everybody felt bad for like harassing them and like backed off and just, like the poor woman has cancer. Well, things with that video just didn't add up. Like people started to look at it more deeply and they saw that like first of all it was March and it was still cold in the UK. Everything was still dead. All the flowers, grass, everything. But in the video she's sitting outside in like a light sweater. There's beautiful flowers behind her. It looked like a warm sunny day and it just didn't match the current climate of the UK. So there was that. But then she was wearing a sweater that she had worn in another video that she made in the past with a very similar background, a video from like 2 years ago. So people ran an analysis on it. I guess you can do that to see if something's AI, and they say that that was AI generated as well. And the royal family's been pretty quiet ever since. And like people, I think for the most part, kind of backed off because obviously, like, no one wants to be an asshole to a cancer patient. But there's still been no public appearance of her. No more videos or photos. And like the couple things, like someone saw her in a car with her mom, another person saw her at a market, and it like didn't look anything like her. So it's just very eerie. And like I hope she's okay, but it's like if her father-in-law is worshiping Baphomet, I'm not so sure. So I'm a little worried about Princess Kate, and I hope she's doing well.
Yeah, there's some like serious dark shit going on, and like sometimes it's so corrupt that it just seems totally overwhelming. And it's like, what can we even do, right? So
Yeah.
I want to play this clip from Friday's Real AF episode, and I haven't even played a clip from that show in a while, but I was listening to it today, like right before we recorded this podcast. And Stephanie, I want your take on the point of view they're discussing. I think it's very much in alignment with what we've been saying about the power of the people. And he had this guy, Matt Kim. He's a podcaster. He had him on as a guest, and they were talking about this portrait of King Charles and like the very obvious satanic symbolism. And they all had this same opinion that the elites aren't trying to hide or disguise their agenda anymore. But I want to know your thoughts on what Andy had to say.
That picture is wild. That painting is wild.
Bro. It's got like legit satanic undertones and overtones.
Bro. So, from my understanding, that the painter is a known political satire painter. Did they know that they were going to do something like this, or are they mocking you? Because the globalist elite love to mock you and humiliate you right to your face.
Right.
Are they purposely commissioning this type of painting with blood in the background to show and signal that, like we know what we do and we don't care?
I mean, it's about that time, isn't it?
Dude, like
they haven't been hiding anything for a while.
They don't everything is in plain sight.
I mean, that's the thing. You got Klaus Schwab writing books saying COVID-19, the Great Reset in 2020.
Right.
And people are like, oh, that's conspiracy. Dude, it's a book. You could buy the shit on Amazon.
Yeah.
He talks about what they're doing. Like so many people are, to me, I don't understand what the resistance instances here. Like, why are we still calling these things conspiracy? Are we like acting like this is no? We have a group of globalist people in the World Economic Forum and other organizations who are straight up communists, who are working to create a one world government, and they're shoving it right in your face, and you guys continue to call it conspiracy.
Right.
What is that? I don't know, man. There's
a lot of stuff about this.
I think you're correct on that. That's what I think too.
I think people just have a natural inclination for fear of the unknown. And if you actually were to know that there is a concerted, organized agenda to change human race forever, like a lot of people aren't ready for that.
Yeah.
I think even though they consider and think about those ideas, they don't want to think about it because that means everything they believed in their life, like we talked about, would have been a lie. And bro, like imagine an entire world of people finding out the truth.
Yeah.
How do you even deal with that? How do you even put that together?
Well, I mean,
do you even want that? Do you really want everyone to find out the truth at the same time?
I do. Because here's why.
Wouldn't that cause chaos?
Yeah, but out of chaos comes order, and that's what they say. You know what I'm saying? So I actually look at it, that's their slogan.
Yeah.
Out of chaos comes order. And it works for us too. And I think if everybody were to have a full disclosure of what's actually going on, yes, there would be some panic, but after a short amount of time of panic, these people would be held accountable, and we would be able to open up the future for something that is real and something that is truly free, and not this tax slavery system that we live in here in the United States, and these manufactured wars for economic reasons, and all of this tyranny that is disguised as freedom would end, and we'd enter an age of actual freedom, at least for the next few generations until they forget again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is one of the key times in history where a revolution is going to be required of some sort. I believe it's a cultural revolution that's happening right now. We see the tides turning on the internet. We see the tides turning in culture. We see those tides, and they are not just going to allow that to happen without violence. There will be violence at some point in this transition period. But I do believe that if people were to wake up and realize that the people doing these things are in such a small number that we could run them over in 5 minutes, we could open up the future to a brand new set of possibilities that would benefit humans in a much more favorable way.
That have never existed before.
I mean, I see all of
Okay. What do
Oh
you
my
think?
God, I have so many thoughts. So first of all, about the chaos, like as everyone is waking up to this, which I think people are, I feel like there is this global awakening. And by awakening, I mean like expansion of consciousness. So all of this shit that they've been doing our whole lives, we never noticed before. Our subconscious noticed, and that's the whole point. It's subconscious programming. But now we're like becoming consciously aware of this bullshit. And so anyhow, back to the chaos. I saw another video on this today. I've been seeing videos for months that the UN troops are here. They're already here in the US. And you and I know from everything we've done, they say when you see the blue hats, which is the UN, watch the fuck out because they don't play by the same rules as everywhere else, you know, and it's brutal. You think they're there to help you? No, they're brutal. So supposedly they're already here, like just waiting in case things get like out of control and there's like martial law or something, you know, and there's no election. So there's that aspect of it. But I was thinking about this as they were saying, and you were talking about like the humiliation, you know, when you pledge allegiance to this group, you go through these like humiliation rituals and symbolism, and we see it in Hollywood all the time. Maybe that's why Kate and her children have not been spotted. Like maybe she got the fuck out of there and she's like, I'm not gonna play these games, and she like took her kids and left. Hopefully they're safe. And I can't stand Meghan Markle, but like maybe she saw that aspect and was like, nope, I'm out. And maybe that's why she refuses to visit with her kids, and only Harry goes for like literally 30 minutes and leaves. So like maybe they don't want to play ball with the evil cabal that's like running things. I don't know, but yeah, I feel like we're on the verge of something massive, and I feel like the fact that this is going to be a huge election, but like you've been saying, there's going to be elections all over the world. I feel like we're building to this moment where there's going to be a revolution, or there's going to be complete compliance and a takeover. And it's like can go either way now because I feel like half the world's awake and half is still asleep.
And it's all happening at the same time as like a year of just crazy astrological shit as well, which is just like the timing of everything is just, it's very precise. So yeah, that's scary. So let's try to end on a positive note. And so I will say this is an update to our topic last week when we were talking about the growing boycott, like of this movement to boycott the elites with the blockout list and the Digitine movement on social media. So I was reading an article. There's a group of digital statisticians called Boom Social, and they reported that Taylor Swift lost over 340,000 followers in less than 1 week between Saturday, May 11th and Thursday, May 16th. And of course, she still has millions of followers, but this just goes to show that like when people do start coming together and start taking action, however small, against the global elites, like this can gain enough momentum that if enough fucking people get on board, we have the power to affect change. And it's like what Andy said in that clip. It's a handful of them compared to a shit ton of us. And it's just a matter of getting everyone away from the idea of left versus right politics and fully realizing that it's an us versus them mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just going to say one little fact that I just learned because people were saying like they've blocked certain corporations or celebrities and then all of a sudden they're showing up again. Like they somehow unblocked like the blocking thing. And then they all have like a team of moderators. So you pay these people like work from home and their whole entire full-time job is just going on social media and attacking people that say anything bad about you. And it made me think about our account because notice how like anytime someone makes like a negative comment about what we're talking about, they have no profile picture or they do, but they have like 2 posts. And it's like clearly this was an account that was just established to go and troll people. And I thought it was bots, but I didn't even know that there's like moderators. It's real human beings that are paid by politicians, celebrities, like you name it. And their whole job is just to go after people and make it look a certain way on the internet. So I would venture to say she's probably lost a lot more than 340,000, but her team is probably going in and adding people back in. And so like, I just feel that there is a massive shift. And I think it's so much bigger than what we can actually see at the moment, which is good news. We're winning. Ha.
We're winning.
All right. Well, happy Monday, everyone. I hope that you have a good week and we'll see you back here on Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in. If you're sick of all the crazy shit going on in our country and you want to express your support and patriotism for the show, head on over to our Etsy store at UO Patriot Chicks and check out our new stickers. The link can also be found on our website. If you love the show and you want exclusive episodes, support the podcast and join the conversation by becoming a member of our Patreon community. We'll be posting weekly member-only podcast episodes and content that isn't available on the weekly podcast. Every Patreon member will also get a free Unapologetically Outspoken sticker and updates about our new sticker release before they're made public. And be sure to follow us on TikTok at Unapologetically Outspoken. And if you haven't done so already, please rate and review the podcast. The more you support us, the more people we can reach. So help us spread the word.